We mentioned a minute ago about the travel industry, and it's not just cruise ships that are being affected. Airlines, other industries directly tied to tourism being deeply, deeply affected by the coronavirus crisis. So we'll turn now to San Francisco reporter Brooks Giroux. He spoke with a travel journalist on the effects the coronavirus is having on the travel industry and also what some travelers can do to take precaution against it. Let's listen.
I'm joined by Angel Castellanos, travel journalist based out of the Los Angeles area. Angel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure
we have
thing.
Lots to talk about.
We sure do. I want to start with maybe one of the most basic questions, but I know a lot of people are just wondering, is it safe to travel right now, in your opinion, especially outside the United States?
I feel it is. I'm not canceling any sort of trips. You know, the world is definitely a big place, but if you're relying on good information put out by the CDC and World Health Organization, you'll find that a lot of the cases that are reported are minimal, especially in places where travelers want to go.
We talk a lot about how this virus is spread and close contact with people. You think about being inside a plane when you're around other people. What sorts of precautions would you recommend people take?
Listen, I've flown every week this year. I've been out of the country since coronavirus broke, and it's been around. So I'm washing my hands just like everyone else, but I'm washing my hands a little bit more obsessively. I'm taking the hand sanitizer very, very seriously and wiping down my area of the plane. But when you get to your destination, you may want to consider your surrounding environment. You know, if you're getting in and out of Ubers, if you're in public places, museums, wash your hands much more frequently. And then one of the filthiest things in the hotel room is the remote control. So I like to put my remote control in a Ziploc bag to avoid touching it.
You know, I was just going to ask you, what are some of the things people should be packing in their go bag or have ready and accessible that maybe they haven't thought of as critically, but they should be thinking about now? Other than the bag, what are some other things you do?
Yeah, so I like to take vitamins and immune boosters. You know, doctors are recommending lots of zinc or even saline solution if you tend to have dry nostrils because the air on the airplane is very, very dry. But lots of snacks really help in case you do get delayed for whatever reason. And if for whatever reason you get a quarantine happening, or if there is a delay, having that extra medication really does help. So if you carry prescription drugs, make sure you carry enough of them with you.
We just heard about another death from coronavirus up in Placer County here in California, and that kind of linking back to a cruise ship. Should people be afraid to go on a cruise ship right now?
Well, you know, cruise ships deal with all sorts of issues as they relate to diseases and viruses. Actually, cruise ships are obsessive in their cleanliness when it comes to keeping travelers' health in check. So I wouldn't necessarily avoid cruise ships at the moment, especially because if you look at the Caribbean, where there's a huge cruise industry, there's no cases of coronavirus reported except other than the Dominican Republic.
So would you recommend people, whether it's a cruise or something else, be looking at their travel plans and considering canceling plans?
You know, I wouldn't. I would consider monitoring the situation, because what happens if you cancel now, you'll just lose out on all of your money. You can't just cancel out of fear. Travel insurance companies won't honor that, and neither will tour providers. But what you can do is just really closely monitor that situation and sit tight, because, you know, once it starts to heat up throughout the world and once summer hits, this could easily blow over. And airlines now are offering the option to completely rebook without any sort of penalty or without any sort of cancellation fee. So that's good.
I know that there is a lot of fear out there, and we think about all these big vacation plans we may have, but we may forget about just traveling to and from work, going to the grocery store, doing our day-to-day business. What is your advice, though, about public transportation? Should people be avoiding public transportation? Should they take extra precautions? If so, what should they do?
I think, you know, for those who are taking public transportation, that's a whole different animal, because here in the United States, travel hasn't been restricted and travel isn't inhibited in any sort of way. So just like if you're traveling on a plane, you should definitely wash your hands and sanitize. An alcohol-based sanitizer really does make a difference. If you are considering whether to drive yourself or whether to take public transportation, you may just want to feel it out. Driving yourself in these cases, there's no shame in that.
You know, in the Bay Area, we have Uber, we have Lyft based here, and we have a lot of people who drive for those companies. Do you have any advice for those people who are carting around passengers from sometimes all over the world?
I think that they should definitely take the same precautions as I, as a traveler, take on an airplane. They should wipe their car down after every single passenger. And it takes some investing in some proper, cleaning product that'll actually disinfect the vehicle. But I think that works both ways. It's going to make the passenger feel a whole lot safer, as well as the driver.
You know, we talk about the flu also causing many deaths across the U.S. And now with all these fears of coronavirus, I think, washing your hands is much more top of mind than it was, say, a month ago. What are some of the other things you would advise people in terms of traveling? Should they be afraid to book things because of these new fears over coronavirus?
No, because we can't really predict the future, and travel is not for fearful people. But if you're taking your health really seriously, if you're hydrating when you're traveling, if you're getting plenty of rest, you don't want to do anything that's going to compromise your immune system by any stretch of the imagination. And it's the people who have immune systems who are compromised, definitely you don't want them to travel, and we advise that they don't travel either. If you do have the flu, you don't want to travel so you don't get your neighbor and fellow traveler sick, but you want to avoid quarantine. So if you're coughing and sneezing, it is better to stay home. But if you're just booking your travel for spring break and for summer, you just want to avoid the destinations that the CDC has issued the highest level warning for. So you can't go to China at the moment, limited travel to South Korea. Definitely Iran is off the table. So the world is such a big place that you can travel all over if you really wanted to.
Angel, do you think the danger is greater when you travel outside U.S. borders, or is it just as dangerous to travel within the U.S.?
Well, we have very few reported cases here in this country, and we don't have travel restrictions in this country. So, travel is supposed to be on the rise for spring break here in America, whether you're going to Florida, Arizona, or taking that classic road trip or going to national parks. We have such an amazing country that I think it is okay to rethink your travels and think, well, maybe it is time to explore my own country here for just a little bit. As long as you're traveling and having fun and enjoying yourself, but more importantly, taking that precaution, you're going to be just fine.
All right, Angel, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.